Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It has been 4 months since I have sat in this spot and filmed. I had a really difficult end to my pregnancy. Everything's fine with the baby and me though. It was just some issues relating to that. So I haven't had a chance to film. I'd been basically bedridden for that entire time. I've also managed to have this problem with my vestibular system, which I think is at the front of your head, where I've been constantly dizzy every single day for the past 4 months. So I apologise. I'm getting over it now. I've been to see a physiotherapist to help me recalibrate my head and do these little exercises to help. So I'm doing okay at the moment. I just figured I would take the opportunity to film. This is the 3rd time I've tried to do it. It wouldn't work on my iPad. So now I am on my phone, kicking it back old school to basics. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be doing an March, April, May, June wrap up for everything that I read while I was sick and not here on BookTube. So I'm very... Alright, so the first book that I read in the month of March was Bared to You by Sylvia Day. Sorry, bit of glare on this one. We are under hard conditions here, guys. I'm sorry. Everyone has jumped on the bandwagon of the billionaire who's, 27 years old with a cool name. This guy's name's Gideon, which I actually love. I actually kind of think that's pretty cool. And there's another Gideon coming up in a couple of books' time, so we'll talk about him soon. What I didn't like about this story is that it's very run-of-the-mill. There is triggers for sexual abuse, and there is a very serious scene where someone admits to being sexually abused, and then the other character says, "That just makes me want you even more," and they have sex. It's a graphic sexual book, but after admitting to sex abuse, I don't think that is at all the time to kind of get in there and try to do it. The next book that I read was On Dublin Street by Samantha Young. Jen over at Jane Jen's Library loves this series. She's always reading, like I'd seen her reading it a couple of months ago and, said that it was really good, so I decided to jump on board. This is about a woman named Joss who has been living in Scotland for the past couple of years. She had a tragedy in her childhood and she's pretty emotionally closed off. She meets a guy named Braden. Things happen, So I followed up reading that one with Castle Hill, which is the novella set after White Hot Kiss by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and then I followed it up with Stone Cold Touch, so I was really into the two of them. I love Jennifer L. Armentrout, but I don't immediately reach for her books. I sort of, I don't know, I had known what these books are about. It's about a girl named Layla who is half demon, half warden. Wardens are basically these gargoyle type things. They fight for the good guys. Humans are aware that the wardens exist, but they aren't aware that like demons and stuff exist, so that was a really weird thing to me, that people didn't put 2 and 2 together and sort of go, oh well, if there's these good guys then surely there's bad guys. This is a very love triangle-y type 2 books, so she's with one guy on this cover and she's with another on that cover, so I'll let you kind of go with that one as you will. The 3rd book, Every Last Breath, is coming out next Monday, I believe. Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. This book I've actually seen this a lot on people's bookshelves, and a lot of people say like, I really want to read this book, it sounds cool. It's about a girl named Helena who starts off, she's in jail and she has committed a crime that we don't find out about until later in the book, so I won't be telling you what it is because spoiler alert. And she is offered either the chance of going to the gallows or to be the poison taster for the king, which is basically just, testing his food to make sure no one is trying to poison him. For some reason, this book really reminded me of Throne of Glass. I think that's my daughter trying to bust in the room. It really reminded me of Throne of Glass because it starts off where she's, in a jail situation, and then there is a surly general, who eventually kind of warms up to her and all of that stuff. It's nothing like Throne of Glass, but it sort of is in a way. I know that sounds really bad, I'm sorry, but I did like it. I do have the rest of the books in the series and I will be continuing on with it definitely. I was watching a lot of Girls Next Door, which is known as Girls with Highway Mansion in Australia, and this is Isabel St. James. She was one of Hugh Hefner's 7 girlfriends before he just had the 3 which were on the show, which is Holly, Bridget and Kendra. So I decided to give this a read because, the parties behind the scenes and stuff, she does give a lot of information about this. This book was released nearly 10 years ago, so nothing to it is relevant now, but I guess it sort of is because Holly's books just come out, and from what I'm hearing, it's a lot of the same sort of stuff. They have allowances, they have a curfew, all of that sort of really weird, creepy shit on iBooks, but I had bought a physical copy, and I don't really know why, because it's not very well written, and I've got the entire series, and now I feel like I have to finish it, and it's really annoying. I know that Eleanor over at Eleanor Reads Books really like this series. I don't know if she's had a copy that's been proofread and edited, because this one is just, it's After by Anna Todd. It started off as Harry Styles fan fiction, but if I was Harry Styles, I'd be pissed, because this guy he's very aggressive and he's absolutely ridiculous. If you've seen the movie She's All That, you've basically read this book. I'm sorry if that's a big spoiler and if you want to read it, but this is huge. This is, 500 and something pages. And I honestly feel like 300 pages could have been taken off if she just contracted words down. Like, she says, oh, Harden, I cannot do that. You say can't, like, it's the year 2015, like, we've fucking bastardized the English language enough, like, just, you might as well write it in text message format. I'm trying to read After We Collided. It's been nearly 3 months, and I have read, like, 96 pages. It's a very hard book to get through, just because they're so back and forth in their relationship. It's, the typical story of the good girl, bad guy sort of thing. They kind of compared it to 50 Shades of Grey. It's nothing like that. There's nothing kinky or, like, interesting to do with their sex. The next book that I read in March was another free ebook. A lot of these ebooks are just popping up, and I don't know why I read it, because after the aggressive character of Harden, this is not what I needed to be reading, and that is Beautiful Disaster by Jamie Maguire. A lot of people talk about this. I know that a lot of people really like it. Some people really hate it. I'm one of the people who really hate it. Travis Maddox is just... he should be no one's book boyfriend. The main character who we hear through the story through is Abby Abernathy. She's this girl, and she meets Travis at a fight. He's I think he's sort of like a street fighter, I guess that's what you call it. Like, he just does boxing matches and stuff, and he's known around campus as, the guy who just has sex with everyone. His motto is definitely hit it then quit it. I don't chase them, I replace them, sort of thing. And he has a terrible attitude towards women and the way that he talks about them, but of course he falls for Abby, and his attitude doesn't change at all. I read Walking Disaster in April, and this is the cover of it here, and that's from his point of view. And Jamie Maguire basically plagiarized herself. She just... every scene was exactly the same. There was nothing new, no different input from Travis's point of view. And his attitude towards women didn't change. He still thought they're all sluts, hoes, bitches, bag, and whatever the fuck he was talking about when he was with Abby. And I think that, love definitely can change a person. And I don't think that he would be talking that way about them if, he met this woman and respected her and that sort of thing. So I won't be reading anything else by Jamie Maguire, because if that's what all of her book guys are like, then that's not something that I really want to be into, and I'm sorry if you like it, it definitely wasn't for me. I read a trilogy after that, and I'm really glad that I did. I got back into a lot of the YA genre. This was a lot of fun. I've seen this on so many people's bookshelves. I feel like it's sort of another one that has a really polarizing opinions. I personally loved it. I thought it was really cute. And that was Ruby Red by Kirsten Gier and Sapphire Blue and Emerald Green. These were translated from German into English, and there's actually the movie series that's German. I think that they're doing Emerald Greens this year. Rubenrot, which is the German translation of Ruby Red. And then Sapphire Blue. I found the Rubenrot. It had American dubbing over the top of it. In these books, it's a time travel, romance, young adult sort of thing. There's a girl named Gwendolyn. They think that her cousin Charlotte has gotten this time-traveling gene that's been passed down through the generations of de Villiers and Montrose. I'm pretty sure those are just the two families that it kind of comes through. They have this thing called a chronograph, which they're trying to complete the bloodline. So they thought that Charlotte was going to be the one to complete it. It's actually Gwendolyn, who's, of course, the awkward one who's always falling over and shit. She's not trained to do anything. So when she's thrust into this situation with a guy named Gideon, who I liked, hilarity ensues. I can't really say too much about it because I did marathon the series, and because it is time travel, everything is just sort of interwoven together. Like, there's something that happens in the second book and you find out what the events occurring with that for the third book. But I really did like it. I want to talk about it more. I mean, if you have read it, let me know. If you want to hear more about it, I can always skim back over what I've read and do a review or whatever, so just let me know. Next book that I read, I didn't actually read it. It was an audiobook, and I had never listened to a full audiobook in my life. I had listened to some Harry Potter ones, but that doesn't really count because I know those books like the back of my hand. Ooh. But this one, the movie had just come out, and I was like, okay, cool, like, I don't really want to go see a movie or anything, and I wonder how much they've changed the story, because I read a spoiler for the movie because I wanted to save myself money, because, like I said, it doesn't really sound like something that I would be that into. As it turns out, after listening to the audiobook and reading the spoiler for the movie on Wikipedia, they changed a shitload. Okay, and that is The Duff by Kody Keplinger. Now, this was, I didn't read the blurb on the back, I just sort of knew that, you know, the Duff was a designated ugly fat friend. And I didn't know straight off the bat that there was definitely going to be someone that she was hooking up with. My thing with this is that I felt like I had read this book a million times before. Like, if you've seen 10 Things I Hate About You, you've read this book. If you have seen any teen movie released in the last 30 years, like, you know, I'm talking like John Hughes movies, like 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, The Breakfast Club, like every single stereotype in those movies is in this book. And I feel like Kody Keplinger just had a really bad week, and she just went to a local video store, like Netflix or whatever the fuck people do these days, maybe even illegally downloaded, who knows, and just watched all of those movies, ate a bunch of junk food, and she's like, you know what, I'm gonna write a fucking book about this, because that was just what it was to me. Like, Bianca, the main character, was very one-dimensional. She was just like, she was Kat Stratford from 10 Things I Hate About You. She was angry at the world, but not really much of a reason. The guy, the love interest, was like the hot guy that everyone hooks up with, but he only ever hooks up with Bianca in the thing. You know, Bianca's parents were just problematic. There was like a father recovering alcoholic, her absent mother who like probably got married too young. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just, it was so, like, nothing was a surprise when it happened. You're just like, you can see it coming from a mile away. But it was a short audiobook. I think it was only about 9 hours. It's a light, fun read. I like the way the sex was handled. You know, honestly, kids these days are fucking crazy. Like, have you seen Kylie Jenner? Like, so the next book that I read in April, I decided that I wanted to do a Vampire Academy reread. Anyone who's been around here for a while knows that I absolutely adore Vampire Academy and was so disappointed with how the spin-off series Bloodlines ended. So I just wanted to remind myself of the magic that was Vampire Academy. And as I was getting a bit sicker in my pregnancy, I needed some comfort. So I read, well, actually I listened to the audiobook of Vampire Academy, and then Frostbite, which is the second book. So that was in April. That was really great to do a reread. I'm still planning on doing my rant on the Ruby Circle. If, you know, like, you're watching this video and you had seen that when I was talking about how much I hated that fucking book and wanted to punch it in the face. Sorry. Breathe in with love and out with anger. And that was Shadow Kissed, which is the third book in the Vampire Academy series, and then Blood Promise. Oh my gosh, seriously, the emotions with these books, like, I had just forgotten. I'd forgotten them, and it was amazing to go back and revisit that. In June, I read 3 books. The first was actually an audiobook, and that was Cress, and holy fuck, this went forever. It was like a 15-hour audiobook. I was like, geez Louise, whoa, like, I need a medal for doing. And everyone says they really love Cress as a character, and I'm like, nah, Scarlet. Scarlet is HBIC. I ship the fuck out of her and Wolf. The last person to the Marissa Meyer party, I know that, but it's done, it's dusted. I've read Cress. Thank you. I just finished on my Vampire Academy reread, and that is Spiritbound and Last Sacrifice, and this book brought on all the feels. Like, I loved it. I loved going back there. It was so kind of quality of writing when Rochelle Mead still gave a fuck about this, like, universe. Absolutely loved it. That is everything that I read while I wasn't on BookTube. I've read 2 books so far this month. I'm thinking about starting and just reviewing books, because now that I have a newborn and an almost 3-year-old, it's getting a little bit harder to kind of find time to read, and a couple of videos that I need to film that I've been promising that I would, and it's got to happen these days. But I'm really happy to be back, and I'm happy with how this video went. I'm very proud of myself. Well, I will see you guys all really soon, because I'm back, I'm doing things, I've got my hair, it's just doing stuff, and it's amazing. Alright, so I hope that you have a really, really great day, a week, wherever you are in the world. Big kisses! Alright, bye!